Tommaso, hello. Nice
Hello.
to see you. Greetings from us here in Sofia to you in Washington.
Yes.
My mom would ask, what's the weather in Washington? So what's the weather?
So your mom would ask a good question because the weather is sunny and relatively warm for the season. It's very good weather in Washington, D.C. It was less good when I left Switzerland.
Well, nice to hear that from you. We had a big storm yesterday, but let's switch to innovations because we know you're a busy man. It's early morning where you are, and you have probably a lot of meetings, but it's super interesting, and we are super happy that you are here to tell us more about how you at Philip Morris International are innovating. You are transforming the company. You are aiming towards a smoke-free future in the next years. And I would say this is currently one of the most ambitious transformations in business globally, and it's based on innovation. So what drove you as a company to this innovation in the first place? Was it the customer needs, or did it come from within the company?
Look, like we're a consumer goods company, so of course the customer needs were the priority. And I would say the basic customer need we're addressing is that cigarettes cause disease and are addictive. And that's been known for decades. But to address that need, we needed science, we needed technology, we needed innovation, something that we didn't have 20, 30 years ago. And so it's a bit of a mix of understanding that addressing the health effects of cigarettes was the right thing to do, something that smokers demand, society demands, and then the effort from the company to develop the science, the technology, the innovation that is needed to do that.
I was privileged enough this year to see the Cube, your research and development center in Neuchâtel in Switzerland. Can you describe the Cube to our audience? How does it look like? And probably the more important question, what do you do there?
So the Cube, as we call it in confidential terms, is our main research and development center. It's, as you say, in Neuchâtel. It's a pretty modern building by Lake Neuchâtel with a good view on the mountain. But more importantly, it is a testament to the ramping up of our efforts on science, technology, and innovation to give those who smoke less harmful alternatives to cigarettes. It was built in 2008 when we decided we did have the science, the technology to do much better than cigarettes. And anecdotally, it's actually not one building, but it's 3 buildings with 3 elements of nature. Of course, we don't have fire because it focuses on developing products that do not burn and shouldn't burn. And in the Cube, we have hundreds of scientists, engineers, and their staff who are solely devoted, dedicated to developing and scientifically assessing better alternatives to cigarettes, alternatives that do not burn.
I'd like us to talk a bit more about your flagship product, IQOS. Can you explain what is the innovation in IQOS?
Yes. Look, that cigarette-caused diseases have been known for decades. And since the 80s, the 90s, there have been attempts to come up with better alternatives. One of the keys to that is understanding that the vast majority of harmful compounds found in cigarette smoke are generated by the burning, by combustion. So IQOS uses very sophisticated technology to heat tobacco at temperatures below burning, where it doesn't burn. In that way, it generates an aerosol that contains the flavors of tobacco, the nicotine that smokers look for, but with much lower levels of harmful compounds. We're talking about 90-95% lower levels. So this is what was innovative with IQOS. And the idea has been around for a long time. What was innovative with IQOS was the ability to miniaturize a battery and make it a product that's very sophisticated, appealing to consumers, but also based on very solid technology and science, because the quality of the product does make a significant difference.
You've mentioned science, and this is actually key to the product. Even though a lot of people consider IQOS a lifestyle product, it's also the way you brand it, the way you sell it. So is this an issue for you? You are leading the communications division, and obviously this is your expertise. So is this an issue in the way you communicate IQOS, that it's both a lifestyle product, but also a scientific product?
Well, no, actually, it has to be. And it has to be for the following reason. You can have even a product that's zero risk. Imagine that one day you were vaporizing water. That's probably the closest you can get to zero risk. But the issue then is, how do you make sure that people switch to it? If you have a product that's even close to zero risk, but nobody uses, nobody adopts, then what are you achieving for the health of people who smoke, for your consumers, and for public health? This is why, to a certain degree, a product like IQOS needs to be appealing to adult smokers. It cannot be an ugly product. It needs to be a product that has an appeal. And we designed it for that reason. We designed it to appeal to people who smoke. And of course, we're also aware of the risks eventually for non-smokers, for youth. And that's why also we designed it with in mind the idea to limit the appeal for those categories. And it's working. It's working because today we know, and the Food and Drug Administration in the US confirmed it, among others, that the vast majority, if not the totality of IQOS users are adults, and that there's very limited interest for other categories that should not use tobacco and nicotine.
That's a good message. Philip Morris International keeps on entering pharmaceutical businesses. You have acquired recently a couple of companies. So what is the rationale behind that?
Look, as we moved away from cigarettes with the ambition to replace all cigarettes with better alternatives based on science, we recruited hundreds of scientists, engineers, of people with new capabilities that we didn't need before. So now we have a capability, a capacity to go beyond simply this objective. And that capability spans more into a space that's closer to pharma, to healthcare and wellness. So we recently bought 3 companies. One is 13 Pharma that specializes on the delivery of drugs through lozenges, gums. It's a Danish company. We bought a company called Vectura, which is a British company that specializes in inhalation technology. And we bought one called Otitopic. And Otitopic is American and delivers through inhalation a molecule that's very close to aspirin. By delivering through inhalation, they basically accelerate the metabolization of the molecule from with oral delivery, you would get 25, 30 minutes. By inhaling, it's 30 seconds, it's a minute, so it's much faster. And that's, for instance, important because if you have a cardiovascular attack, a heart attack, that molecule can actually help you declogging your blood and potentially saving lives. That's exactly the principle. We take molecules that exist, but we work on the delivery with this new category of products. And the delivery may be of sleeping aids, it may be of medical cannabinoids, anything that improves the quality of the life of people. And that has nothing to do, or very limited to do, with what we do with nicotine and tobacco. It's building the basis for new business in the decades to come.
Tommaso, you are unfortunately not here. You're warmly invited to join us next year. But we've spoken so far in the forum a lot about mistakes and innovations through mistakes. Can you tell us about the mistakes Philip Morris International did over the years? Were there products that weren't as successful as IQOS, and what you've learned from there?
Let's call them learnings. Let's call them learnings. Look, any progress comes with learnings, with failures to a certain extent, and the industry, not only us, made attempts in the past to come up with less harmful alternatives to cigarettes. For instance, heated tobacco products have been attempted since the late 90s, particularly in the US. But it simply didn't work. And it didn't work not as much because of the science, but because of the ability to come up with a product that is appealing to smokers, to the point we were discussing before. One of the things that didn't work, for instance, was that the battery of those products that's needed to heat the tobacco was too big. And it comes with battery technology. If you remember the first mobile phones, they had huge batteries. But imagine taking something like my mobile phone to my mouth to inhale an aerosol. It doesn't work. People don't want it. So with time, for instance, we've improved battery technology, and we got to the point where today the heater of our IQOS device is the size of a finger. So it's much smaller and much closer to the taste of cigarettes. That's one example of learnings that we had in the last decades. But today, we do have a range of products that are appealing, that are working, and millions of smokers are switching and abandoning cigarettes. So there's a real promise for public health there.
I want to briefly open the topic of regulations towards the end of our conversation here. So what is your opinion about the balance between innovation and regulation in the EU?
Let me start with an anecdote. We all, and it's in general on regulation and innovation. The first seatbelts have been invented in 1958 by a Swedish engineer, Nils Bohlund. And they were only adopted by a regulator in 1971, 13 years. In that year, the reduction in mortality because of accidents was approximately 15%. Regulation, this proves, has a significant importance to foster the impact of innovation. Is the sound okay?
It's perfect.
Yes. And I think the EU has done something. The EU in 2014 has, in our sector, clearly separated the innovations that come with e-cigarettes, with heated tobacco, from cigarettes. And by doing that, it paved the way for member states to come up with more innovative legislation that fully leverages the health potential of those products. Why? Because it allows, in some cases, take Italy, take your country, take Portugal, take Greece, it allows consumers to get to know the benefits and risks of the product. And if they don't quit, to make an informed choice to switch and get away from cigarettes. That's why regulation can go a long way in helping public health through innovation.
Final question, what is in the pipeline for Philip Morris International in terms of new innovative products for the customers?
Smokers have different tastes. So if we want to convince them all to switch, we need different product types. And we started with heated tobacco. We're now expanding the range of heated tobacco, expanding the prices of the products available with new and innovative solutions. We've added e-cigarettes because many do like e-cigarettes. And we made an offer to acquire a company that does snus pouches of tobacco, unfortunately prohibited in Europe, but very popular in Sweden. And more will probably come because the idea is to continue to innovate and give smokers new alternatives so that they really switch and we get rid of cigarettes for good in some countries. It may happen like in Bulgaria in 10, 15 years from now if everyone plays their role.
Perfect. Thank you very much for taking the time for us. It's early morning for you, so we wish you a successful working day. Say hello to Uncle Joe from us and hope to see you soon here in Sofia live.
Thanks a lot for hosting me and hope to see you in Sofia indeed. I love that city, so next time I'll come.
Благодарим на Томасо, който се включи наистина на живо от Вашингтон.